Hey everyone, Parallel here. Welcome to Star Trek Online. A new weapon system was recently added to the game. It is the Kentari mass-produced missile launcher. This is a new torpedo-based weapon, and it is actually quite unique, has a lot of differences from other torpedoes. So what I'd like to do in this video is take a look at this weapon and check it out in combat, take a look at the actual particle effects and visuals, which are quite good. This is a very nice looking weapon, and also just take a look at some of the differences and how some of the unique interactions that this weapon has with various torpedo abilities like high yield, torp spread, concentrate firepower, and all those good things, and kind of just give an overview of the weapon itself. Hopefully this will give you an idea if you'd like to, try to fit this weapon into your build, or if you'd like to get your hands on one and think it's worth upgrading. That is the goal of this video. Just a quick disclaimer before we jump in. I am not necessarily a torpedo build expert. I do use several side torpedo builds, and I also use like the energy torpedoes like the crystalline or the Nausicaan. But I'm not an expert in the sense that I don't really use a full-on kinetic torpedo build. So just take that, take my advice with a grain of salt. But here I'm more just trying to give an overview of the weapon itself. So just take it at face value for what it is. All right, so let's jump in here. And let's start out by taking a look at the weapon itself, the item, and then I'll go over quickly how you can acquire this in case anyone is not aware who is watching this video. Now, if you'd like to get a hold of this weapon, you can get it from the episode Mirrors and Smoke. Now, at the time I'm making this video, this is currently the featured episode. But if you're watching this video later on, several months after this video has been out, that episode will likely be put down here into the New Frontiers story arc as one of the missions here that you can run, and you'll be able to get this weapon. So it is a story mission reward, so it's actually quite easy to acquire. So that is definitely a plus. So here it is, the Kentari mass-produced missile launcher. This is the actual item. Let's quickly read it over. I have upgraded it to Mark 14 just to give it more of a proper testing. I did not try to increase the quality to gold just because I wanted to actually use it first to see if it's worth investing all of those resources. So that's where it's at right now. So this is a torpedo-based weapon, as I mentioned, but it actually shoots little missiles, and it looks quite different from other torpedoes. It's actually a really nice look. I'll show you the particle effect once we get into a mission here. But it does have a 180-degree targeting arc. Actually, that's really good. Again, very unique from other torpedoes, which are usually a much shorter, much narrower arc. Like, for example, I think your typical torpedoes are 90 degrees. Yeah, 90 degrees. So this has a nice wide arc, so that is a definite advantage. It does kinetic damage, so it has an upfront kinetic damage, and then also has a radiation damage over time component as well. So it has kind of a two-part component there: a lot of kinetic a fair amount of kinetic damage, and then the radiation damage over time. It also has a proc, so it has a default 10% chance to have a flight turn rate debuff applied to the target, and it looks like that goes up to 100% when you use it under high yield. And I'll show this weapon under high yield because there are some trade-offs you need to be aware of if you are going to use high yield on this weapon. So there it is. It's on face value doesn't look that different. It's more like a just like a standard kinetic weapon that has also a radiation damage over time component. But where this is unique, it doesn't really say it here, but this has a really fast firing cycle. So this sets it apart. So it's actually a 2.5 second firing cycle on this weapon. That is much, much faster than almost every other torpedo. I think there's one other. I think the Ferengi missile launcher may be slightly faster. I think it has a 2 second, if I'm not mistaken. But this is still a very, very fast firing cycle for a torpedo-based weapon. All right. So a couple nice things there right away is the fast firing and the 180-degree arc. Although the damage itself, as you can see, is not super impressive compared to, like other torpedoes. Like, for example, looking here at the Terran Task Force torpedo, which is just, another kinetic-based torpedo at the same, Mark 14, very rare. This one will do 4,500 kinetic damage. So, yeah, it does have a much lower base damage, but it does fire many more missiles, and it also has the radiation component, which is also a fair amount of its damage. All right. So that is the stats on the weapon itself. Now, what I'd like to show is, let's go ahead and head into the mission here and start showing some of the distinct traits of this weapon system and how it interacts with various bridge officer abilities. Just so I will show you real quick, I'm here my KDF officer in a Gorkin Science battlecruiser. This is the Science flagship on the KDF side, and here are the bridge officers I'm going to use. So I'll show you how this weapon interacts with high yield, torp spread, and also concentrate firepower. I also slotted the overwhelming force trait, which I have somewhere here. Yeah, overwhelming force trait. So you can see that this does actually work with this torpedo in high yield, so we will take a look at that. One thing that I won't be able to show you is another ability that would actually work really, really well with this torpedo, which is the what is it? The Terran 3-piece set, which is, what do they call this? Oh yeah, secondary torpedo launcher. This ability is a clicky you get if you get the 3-piece Terran munitions set. Terran Task Force munitions. You can see the items you need there. It's just 3 reputation pieces. And this gives you an ability where for 2 minutes of recharge, you get a 20-second buff where launching a torpedo launches an additional basic torpedo of a similar type. Since this is a very fast firing torpedo, you will actually get a lot of benefit out of this because you get a lot of those little extra torpedoes during that 20-second window. Much more than you would with other torpedoes that have a much longer cooldown. So that's actually a very, very nice interaction there. I wish I could show it, but unfortunately I don't have the 3-piece Terran Task Force munitions. So that is something you can be aware of, that if you do have that set, it might be a good idea to test out this missile launcher using that set. Could be a nice little burst of damage for that 20-second window. That'd be a lot of extra torpedoes coming out. All right, so let's go ahead and head back out into space. What I'd like to do is run an Argala mission, and I'm just going to show this weapon system on its own. I'm not going to try to do a speed run or anything, or actually complete the mission. I just want to show this weapon in action, show the visuals and the various interactions. All right, so here we are. So I have only this weapon running, so here it is, and you can see there is the 180-degree arc on my ship there, which is very, very nice. Let's go ahead and target one. What did we get here? Yeah, Hunter escorts. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this thing firing and take a look, shall we? So there we go. It is now firing. Pretty cool, huh? So it's each. Let's see if I can do a. Yeah, there we go. So there you go. It shoots 3 little missiles per volley. So it is kind of a mass-produced missile, and you can see it actually launches out of the front of your ship, kind of arcs and hits the enemy. It's a very nice-looking effect. And that wide 180-degree arc works really, really well. It makes it, I think, better if you have like a slower turning ship and you still want to use torpedo type build. I think this would be a great addition. Oh yeah, one other thing I forgot to mention. You can mount this thing aft. This missile launcher can be mounted aft. I could see some applications there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. Now, let's go ahead and do a torp spread. Get in range of some enemies here, and there we go. See, launch torp spread works fine. So it launches three missiles to each target. Pretty cool, huh? I'm gonna go and heal up so I don't die, but just keep kind of launching away here. Now, after I kill off a few of these, I would like to show the high yield and also the concentrate firepower. So we'll do that here. Let's go ahead and do another spread. You saw another spread right there. Pretty cool. So the torp spread with this works really, really well. It doesn't have any unforeseen interactions, no weird cooldowns or anything. But let's do a high yield here. So we're down to 2 targets. Let's go ahead and do a high yield on this guy right here. Ready? High yield is activated. Now watch this. Nuclear warhead. Go get him. Go, nuclear warhead. And boom, there you go. That was the nuclear explosion. Actually kind of sad if you ask me. A little bit uninspiring, but the actual warhead looks cool. But there is one big disadvantage, and I don't know if you noticed it there. I'll launch another one here on this guy. Okay, so I launched it. Now there's going to be another nuclear warhead coming. But look at my cooldown here. It went up to 10 seconds. So you got to be aware of that. When you do a high yield with this weapon system, it puts a 10-second cooldown on the missile launcher. That kind of sucks. Honestly, I'm not going to lie, because the whole thing with this weapon is the really fast rate of fire. Right? And you don't want to lose your fast rate of fire, because 10 seconds, that's 4 firing cycles, right? And is that high yield nuclear missile going to actually do 4 times the damage? Let's do another one here for fun. Oh, that was a spread, sorry. But is it actually worth it? I don't think the high yield is going to be doing 4 times the damage to give you that 10-second cooldown. I just don't think it's quite worth it, and that's unfortunate. Let's go ahead and do a concentrate firepower, because that, of course, works very similar to the high yield. So, yeah, so as soon as you do concentrate firepower on them, it starts launching your warheads, but you can see that also, again, gives you the 10-second cooldown. Let's see if another one gets off during the duration of the concentrate firepower. Yep, so you get another one off. But again, it gives you the 10-second cooldown. So I'd also say maybe not the best use of concentrate firepower, unfortunately also. But you can see, let's do it one more time, you should also see that the overwhelming force, when this next nuclear missile goes off, you should see the little particle burst that comes out with the nuclear weapon as well. So you can see that overwhelming... Oh, I didn't really see it there. Is my... Oh, you killed him. Okay. So yeah, actually I thought and last time when I was testing this, I thought I saw... Okay, no, that's not it. Or did it go... I'm not sure actually, overwhelming force did a proc already, because I saw the particle burst go off on it. Oh, don't placate me. Alright. So there you go, guys. That is a kind of an overview of how it works with concentrate firepower, high yield. There we go. I'm getting another couple nuclear warheads coming out. But just that long cooldown there from the high yield and from the overwhelming force, I think does not make it worth it. Because the whole strength of this weapon system is the high fire rate. That's what you want this for. The damage itself, the kinetic damage, is not super impressive. This is more like a kind of a damage over time type of ability. The radiation damage you can see ticking away does hit pretty decently as well. But this again is something, you know, that you're going to want to take advantage of the high fire rate. And of course the best way to take advantage of high fire rate is to use things that proc. I think that's where the strength of this weapon is going to be. For example, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is this weapon is very, very good for proccing projectile weapon officer doff abilities. It will proc them. I don't have any projectile weapon officers right now for torpedoes. Do I even have one? But yes, there's like there's ones like this one that will reduce your chance to reduce the recharge time. There are some... Oh, I killed him while I was away. looking at the duty officers. But so it'd be really, really good torpedo for proccing projectile weapon officer abilities. So for example, I would say even if you're running like, let's go ahead and show the firing arc here. So even if you're broadside, it'll still be firing up to that 180 degrees. It's really, really good. Pretty cool looking too. Like they arc out and then seek the target, kind of like a heat-seeking missile. It looks really nice. Absolutely love the effect. The visuals are great. But yeah, sorry, getting sidetracked there. The actual, what I was trying to say is that, yeah, there are projectile weapon officer abilities that would be really good synergy with this. I think it's the Xindi projectile weapons officer that has the, let's do a nuclear warhead from this angle here. Oh, that just goes straight at him. Okay, it doesn't arc. But yeah, the Xindi ones give you, what is it? It procs like additional kinetic damage, is it? And you can stack 3 of those. So you think if you got like 3 of those projectile weapons officers, let's do a spread on these guys. Oops, didn't mean to fire my phasers there. It'd be really good synergy with those projectile weapons officers for the Xindi. You know, keep that kinetic proc going. So I could see it useful in that sense. It's also really good. I am running supercharged weapons, so it'd be really good for keeping your supercharged weapons up. That's another Starship trait if you are curious. Here, supercharged weapons, procs. You'll stack up to 3 times, so you could use this torpedo to very quickly stack it up, even without a torp spread, because I mean you're going to have a fully stacked. Yeah, you're going to have a fully stacked. Only 3 firing cycles will fully stack your supercharged weapons. Even if you, so like if you have a very tight build and you're not able to run any torpedo abilities, again I think this would be a good weapon in that case for proccing abilities. In fact, overall I think that is the strength of this weapon. Its default is actually quite good. Those actually missed. Went off into space there. That's what I think one of the strengths is that it's actually pretty good weapon for proccing torpedo abilities without having to invest in spread or high yield, or any particular torpedo traits or anything along those lines. So it'd be a good complement to, like, if you're using other torpedoes, use this to stack up projectile weapon officer procs or starship traits, and then use your high yield and your torp spread on your more powerful torps like a neutronic, which will do much better. That's where I kind of see the niche of this torpedo. So any other things I should mention here? Now, it does do radiation damage, and unfortunately I did test it out. It does not scale with particle gen. So no go on a side torp build with this thing. Very, very unfortunate. If that radiation had scaled with EPG skill, that would be fantastic. Whoa, I'm getting wrecked here. You have some concentrate firepower, even though it's crap, with this torpedo. Let's go ahead and use some abilities here so we don't die. There we go. So yeah, that doesn't scale with exotic particle gen, so you're out of luck for a side torp build, which is unfortunate. But it will scale with some of the various radiation buffs out there. There's not... Oh my gosh, there is a ton of item here. There are some... there is some set bonuses out there, and there's the console. I'm trying to think here. I believe, what is it, the Counter Command Tactical Console has radiation damage on it. I think also the there's another set bonus. Is it the Delta Alliance? Well, yeah, I think it's the Delta Alliance. There's a set bonus there that also will give you a bonus to radiation damage that will affect this torpedo. I did not personally test that one myself. I don't have those items, but that is coming from the Reddit, which I believe is accurate. So you can scale the radiation damage if you have a kind of a radiation build going. I think this would be a good torpedo to fit in that type of a build. Right, I'm trying to think of any other radiation damage out there. I believe if you look at the... I know in the temporal operative spec there is also... yeah, entropic amplification, I believe, also will scale this ability. I wasn't running it here, but that will increase your damage over time. I believe it does affect the radiation dot part of this missile system. So there are some ways to scale it up a bit. Of course, you can also scale the kinetic damage. That works as well. And yeah, those are all good set bonuses for scaling this. And again, I think the other set bonus that you would really want to take advantage of is the Terran Task Force munition set. I think that is probably one of the best interactions you can have because of the fast firing rate, giving you all those extra torpedoes from the secondary launcher ability that you get would be great. Okay, so that is the new weapon, and that is how it works. I'm thinking here, let's just go ahead and head out and just kind of give my overall impressions here. So, you know, what's the good, bad, and, you know, any recommendations. Now, strengths. So just to review the strengths, I think the biggest strength is, of course, the rate of fire and using it to proc. So you want to use this as something to proc all of your torpedo abilities and enhance your other torpedoes, probably your more stronger torpedoes, like a neutronic or something else. That's what you want to use this for. I think that's where one of the main strengths is in this weapon system. Now, funny thing is, this torpedo is actually very strong when you're not using high yield or torp spread. So you don't have to use those cooldowns on this torpedo. You can use them on your other more powerful torpedoes. So again, another strength there. And funny thing is, just a side note on that, since this is such a good torpedo in just its default state without requiring all those weapon or bridge officer abilities, this actually is a really good torpedo for shuttles. I actually use this on a shuttle mission. It's actually pretty fantastic. The wide arc is good for shuttles, and also just the fact that it has such a high fire rate is a good damage over time. It just works well on shuttles. So if you're a small craft aficionado, I would highly, highly recommend this torpedo. Yes, so yeah, the procs, the high fire rate, it's good for proccing projectile weapon officer abilities. Good for proccing starship traits. Another one I think would be good on would be like Checkmate. You could use it for that. Supercharged weapons. It does work with overwhelming force, but again, you have to use high yield for that, and that is, as you saw in the video, one of the downsides. So those were the good sides. Let's get into the downsides here. So I guess the first downside, and it's actually kind of an important one, is that the damage itself is kind of mediocre. I don't want to say it's crap. It's not super terrible. And in fact, let me, while I'm chatting here, bring up a parse that I did on this. Yeah, so, yeah, hold on, let me bring this up over here. Hopefully you are seeing this now. So here is a parse that I actually did in an ISA, just curious to see how this weapon system did. You could see when I was running torp spread and the missile itself, did about 3.6k worth of DPS. Definitely not that good as far as a parse goes. It was definitely less just looking at my fire at will and anti-proton arrays that I was running. Definitely would not outperform just having an 8th beam weapon in that slot. So overall, the damage is mediocre. So you're not using this, I'll go ahead and hide this now, but you're not really using this as a big damaging torpedo in and of itself. Again, it's more for the procs. So that is definitely one of the downsides, is the mediocre damage. And that is actually an unfortunate downside, because let's face it, most of the time if you're using a weapon system, you're using it to do damage. So if you're going to be sacrificing that damage, you have to make up for it in some other way, through procs, traits, projectile, doff abilities. So, be aware of that for sure. The fact that the radiation damage also doesn't scale off of EPG, to me that was kind of a very much a disappointment. I was kind of hoping to use this on my side torp builds, which is what I have the most experience with. that would have been fantastic, having a nice, like a radiation-based damage over time that would scale with EPG. That'd be really, really awesome. It'd be a good alternative to, you know, like the gravimetric and the plasma emission particle torpedoes. So that was one of the downsides. And yeah, and just the downside of the high, it doesn't interact well with high yield. That 10-second cooldown when you use a high yield or an overwhelming force, again, I mean, that's a downer. This could have been really, really good with name is escaping me. The command ability, concentrate firepower. God, yeah, concentrate firepower would have been great with this if it didn't apply that cooldown when the high yield actually went off. If the missiles were still firing and you still got those high yields every 2.5 seconds, that would actually be really good interaction. That would make it worth it. But alas, I don't think it's all good for that type of purpose with the command bridge officer abilities. So those are some of the downsides. Any other positives? The firing arc is really good, and that you can slot this thing on the aft, I think, would be another little positive to mention there as well. Would make a good aft torpedo because of the wide arc and the fast fire rate. So those are the good and bad. I think in closing, I just say this is kind of it's a very cool looking weapon. And I think one cool thing you could do with this would be to do like a really neat, like an NX build, like a cannon NX build. Cannon as in 1N cannon build, where you'd actually be accurate to the show, where you could have a missile launcher on there on your NX. That'd be really cool. So for using it for a RP type purpose, I think would be great. I think it fits well into that. The visuals are really nice. Definitely no complaints there about the actual visuals. The only thing I'd like to do is just think if you could slot multiple of these, have like a full bank of fore and aft of this missile launcher. That would be really awesome. Have like a full broadside missile boat. That would be really cool. That would be getting into like EVE Online type territory. I really love the missile boats in EVE Online. And that would be a neat thing to have in Star Trek as well. I'm kind of just looking at the side of the ship here. That would look really awesome if like all of these, all of these panels along the side of the neck here in the ship or the main hull, if all those were like missile launchers, and you could see the swarming missiles coming out of here, like 8 missile banks, that would be so awesome. But yeah, that's a little bit of a pipe dream. But just the missile itself does have a really nice visual. But yeah, in closing, it's just more of a niche weapon. This is more of a weapon that you would use to trigger procs and starship traits for empowering your other more significantly powerful torpedoes, or empowering your ship through supercharged weapons or other traits. I think that's where this actual weapon system would shine. Yes, anything else here? I could think of, like, if you were doing like a full kinetic torp build, this being useful, like maybe on the aft, because if you're doing like a strafing run in a torp build, you'd as soon as you pass by the ship, you could have this torpedo launching aft, keeping all of your projectile weapons officer abilities procced, and having a higher uptime on those while you're pointing away from your target. And it would also do a good job of that, because even as you're turning towards your target, it would continue to fire for that full 180 degree arc. That might be a decent use for it. But yeah, outside of some niche builds, I would say it's not necessarily a mainstay torpedo. If you want to use this, you're going to have to have some way to take advantage of it. You wouldn't want to make this like your primary weapon system. It's something that you would use to augment your arsenal and proc buffs and officer abilities to enhance other parts of your weapons. So that is it, guys. That is the Kentari mass-produced missile launcher. Again, very distinct, very interesting weapon system. I like that Cryptic added this. I'd be curious for any of you true expert torpedo users out there, if you can leave some comments down below. How do you take advantage of this system? Are there any other neat interactions that that I haven't found yet, or that that could be potentials for this, for people that want to use this missile launcher? I would definitely like to know. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think of this missile launcher? Are you going to take advantage of it? It is at least very easy to get, right? So there's no reason not to at least give it a try. You can get it right from we're just running the episode, so no problem there. Definitely very accessible. Alright guys, well that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.